98% of large projects are under budget by 30%. 77% of the projects are delayed by 40%. So that shows unproductiveness that our industry has. If we look at the parallel industries like manufacturing, what they've done was basically streamline everything. They put everything in controlled environments on a production pipeline, which you know exactly what the first step is, what the next step is, when does the next step happen. And you can also plan ahead of time for material or people or electricity and so forth. And that's what we need in the construction industry as well. We are only designing digital. We're not fabricating digital. So there's a big gap between digital planning. People spend days and months in creating the most accurate BIM model. And what happens on the construction site? Somebody plots a version of your model, goes on the construction site, does a rule of thumb. These two aspects, if you put them together, they cause.
How can architects and construction professionals bridge the gap between digitalization and on-site efficiency? I'm Hamid, your host, and welcome to Birdflocks Talks, where we dive into actionable strategies and insights to help architects thrive in today's digital world. Today, I'm excited to introduce our guest, Yashar Moradi, CTO and co-founder of MOD, a company focused on prefabrication and offsite construction. With over 2 decades of experience in the AEC and GIS industries, Yashar has dedicated his career to transforming the construction industry through digitalization and innovative solutions that reduce inefficiency and environmental impact. In this episode, we cover the real challenges of digitalization in the construction industry, how prefabrication and offsite construction are reshaping the future of building, practical strategies to reduce inefficiencies and CO2 emissions in construction, streamlining processes from digital design to on-site implementation. Now, I would like to ask you to support us in this journey with just subscribing to our YouTube channel and joining Birdflocks Talks community on birdflocks.com platform. This will give you free access to all insightful conversations that we had and the resources that we provided for you. And without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Yashar Moradi. So thank you so much, Yashar, for accepting my invitation, and welcome to Birdflocks Talks.
Thank you for your invitation, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yashar, I want to start with your career journey. So can you walk us through your journey and tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm a civil engineer by training. But before I started with civil engineering, I did programming at the age of 16. So I started very early. At my first paid job with 17 as a software developer. My career was a little bit backwards. Normally, people start with an engineering domain and then learn programming. I started with programming, then added engineering to it. Throughout my studies, I fell in love with geodata and GIS and remote sensing. Basically, I've been doing that, basically creating software products for AEC and GIS industry for the past 27 years. And the past 8 years of it, mainly in startups. I've been in Navis for reality capture and laser scanning in the built environment. Been at Cloudeo, where we built some solutions for Earth observation and geodata for European Space Agency. Last startup was Scopperty, where we created a platform, machine learning based, for evaluating all the properties over Germany and put it on a map of Germany for everybody to see. A little bit of transparency in the real estate market. And now I'm a CTO and co-founder at MOD, where we try to streamline the supply chain of prefabrication and construction.
Yeah, sure. You had a sort of transition from software and tech to construction and the AEC industry. So what draw your focus or what draw you to focus on the AEC and construction industry?
So basically the realization was that the AEC industry is way behind when it comes to digital transformation and adapting technology. And as a civil engineer, I felt somehow it is my duty to pitch in and to try to move the construction industry a little bit forward towards more productivity, more efficiency, and adapting digital transformation.
Digital solutions are transforming various industries. So, from your perspective, what role do digital transformation play in shaping the future of construction industry?
Yep. So I think there are a couple of reports that everybody in the construction industry should have read or have already read. The best example of it is a McKinsey report, which states 98% of the large projects in construction are either over budget or delayed or both. And 98% is a huge number. It means only 2% of the projects are done at budget and at the planned time. And the budget overruns are average 30% and 40% delay. So it is vastly unproductive and inefficient. And I think the main advantage of adopting digital transformation is to bring more efficiency, to bring more productivity to the table. I can tell you firsthand from a project which one of my customers had. It was a hospital, and basically they planned everything digitally. Then, as we all either love or hate, and the definition of digital was for this project just putting everything in digital format and archiving it. So when they realized that they can't get the doors and windows from supplier A and they have to switch to supplier B, what they did, surprisingly, was they hired 14 working students to change all the doors and windows manually in their BIM model. So that is not, in my book, a digital transformation. That is still putting everything that you previously done manually, now in digital format manually. So to bring digital transformation, in my book, means bringing a little bit of programming, a little bit of automation to the table. And once you have your data digitally, you're in a position to do that. So the thing that they did in a week and more than 10 people could have been done with half an hour of scripting something and basically running it for maybe another half an hour or tops half a day, not more than 10 people times a week. So that's basically the small scale of it. But if you scale it to the whole industry with digital transformation, you can bring a lot of efficiency to the table.
Can you talk a little bit about, or can you give me a real case scenario of a company that basically used this digitalization, or they used it in the right way? Because you mentioned that the company that you mentioned, you said, it's wrong because they still did it in a manual way, sort of digital way. So what is the correct way? And I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but I want to know it within an example of a correct.
Sure. One of the landmarks that I think all of us have seen is the Las Vegas Sphere, for instance. It's huge. It's a huge architectural monument, and it is a huge also from MEP perspective, from architectural, from structural perspective. It is really a landmark. And I actually had a the privilege to interview the person behind calculation and basically they call themselves programming architects. The Milos, it's a team of 4 people who basically programmed the whole thing, and it also didn't take that much. Or there's a building which was built, I think last month it was, in Finland, which has 28 stories, and the fabrication of the building took only under a day. So that's the type of productivity that you can reach. And if you look at the curves of within all these reports, you see that the construction industry's productivity has been stale for the past 50 years. The manufacturing industry has doubled its productivity within the past 20 years, and we're still delivering the things that we're still building with bricks and mortars. So it is the whole dilemma of the industry to adapt new methods, to be able to be quicker, be more efficient, be more sustainable. I mean, the construction industry is responsible for 38% of the whole CO2 emission of our globe. And as we all know, we are way behind our goals on that part. So bringing everything together, putting everything digitally, trying to optimize our processes, trying to build things once and not building it inaccurately, then having to tear it apart and building it again, managing our human labor, managing our material in a better way. That's all what is much easier to do with a digital basis and digitally formed data.
Well, we are seeing like there are so many values behind digitalization and digital adoption. Why so many firms are still hesitant to fully embrace digital solutions?
I think the main problem is that many players in the industry, they don't see the need to go that way. Because if you look at the pricing models, for instance, it doesn't make any sense. I'm in Germany. It doesn't make any sense for an architect in Germany to build cheaper, because basically they get a cut of project worth. So it is somehow a doomed constellation in itself. And the way that these companies see digital transformation and digitalization generally is as an additional work. They don't see it as a way out. Like I mentioned in this hospital example, they are just putting things in the digital format, and they are still doing the manual stuff as well. So it is basically like scanning all your documents in PDF and putting them in a file system, but without having the data of it, or without using the data of it. And that's in that perspective, I do understand that smaller and medium-sized businesses don't go all in digital transformation, but that's exactly the point. If you do things digitally, and if you thrive in digital environments, and you have digital literacy, you don't need to employ 25 people for a small office. You can do it with 3 people, with 4 people that are digitally literate, and they can basically deliver what you normally delivered with 25 people. And you can have the data instead of having a drawing. And with that data, you can analyze, you can make data-driven decisions, which is basically the standard in almost all the other industries.
How do you see data and technology shaping project management and decision making?
So if I look at other industries, data is basically everything. Data is the new oil, as they call it. And the more data you have, the more power you have to shape your project, to shape your business. If you look at, for instance, software development industry, when you want to create a new feature for your software, you can basically get the data from the usage analysis of other features that you have, of the user interaction with your software, and you can basically see where all the users or most of the users get stuck, and you can basically create a new feature for those users to have a better life. What we don't have in our construction industry is this feedback loop. So we don't have any idea what a user of the house that we built reacts to the features that we built in the house. So you can't optimize it. You can't enhance the system that you built. And the same thing is also during the building phases. But if we have the data, and there are many companies who do that, it is not that all the companies are not digital. There are many companies who do that, and once you have the data, you can basically use the data in the project management. You can create, instead of a waterfall project management process, which you have to plan ahead for the next 2 years or so. And whenever something happens, you have to basically move everything down the waterfall forward. You can stay more agile. You can go in iterations, see what happens, plan your project plan. Basically, with that, you can be more responsive to the problems that happen.
Yashar, what is the meaning of, or what is a simple definition of data, especially in the AEC industry? Because sometimes there is a misinterpretation of this word, and sometimes you're mixing it with, for example, information, knowledge, or So what is data?
So data is for me any piece of information that you have. It doesn't even have to be structured. It is basically any piece of information, any piece of any values that you have. To be honest with you, and digital form, and then you can basically bring the data into structures and into contexts. And then with that, you can generate insights or information. And if you look at the industry and basically where we're going towards, everybody is talking about AI these days. It's a bit of a buzzword, but we also have made a lot of progress in this area the past 2 years. And everybody's saying we want to have our own AI, or we want to employ AI, or we want to do something with AI, but they don't realize AI requires data. So you have to do the digital transformation first. That's a prerequisite to be able to use the data in a meaningful way. So I told you I've been very busy with the GIS and remote sensing and geodata industry. Back then when I started, there were only paper maps. There were really limited access to satellite information. There were limited access to GPS devices. Laser scanning was not there. And you had to basically scan these, digitize these, and bring them together. Right now, you have everything on your smartwatch or on your smartphone. You don't have to think about best way to go from point A to B. You can basically ad hoc enter your destination and the way you go, and it changes also dynamically based on the traffic situation and so forth. That's the power of data. Previously, you had to basically buy an atlas, plan your route, and basically whenever something happened along the road, for instance, a construction site along the road, or a problem on the road, or traffic, or whatever, you're stuck. You have to reanalyze another route, basically manually. And that's something that we need to adapt also in the construction industry.
Next, I want to talk about prefabrication and offsite construction. So at first, I want to give a little bit of context. What are we talking about and what these words actually mean? So what is the meaning of prefabrication and offsite construction? And next, I want to know what are the problems that we have in regards to these.
Sure. I go back to the numbers that I mentioned. 98% of large projects are under budget by 30%, and 77% of the projects are delayed by 40%. So that shows the unproductiveness that our industry has. If we look at the parallel industries like manufacturing, what they've done was basically streamline everything. They put everything in controlled environment on a production pipeline, which you know exactly what the first step is, what the next step is, when does the next step happen, and you can also plan ahead of time for material, for people, for electricity, and so forth. And that's what we need in the construction industry as well. Industrialization of the construction industry. Another aspect which I can mention is, of course, let's say we're all now digital, and we are planning everything in BIM. But still, if you look at it, we are only designing digitally. We're not fabricating digitally. So there's a big gap between digital planning. People spend days and months in creating the most accurate BIM plan, BIM model, with millimeter accuracy, and including all the metadata of all the parts up to the last screw in the wall. And what happens on the construction site? Somebody plots a version of your model in 2D on an A0 paper, goes on the construction site and does rule of thumb on the construction site. So that's the huge gap. That's the waste of resources to put so much energy in creating a model and then building it with brick and mortar way that we are doing. And then we spent also afterwards a lot of time to inspect what we built and compare it to the model that we had and see where we have discrepancies. Then we have to tear it down and build it again. And these two aspects, if you put them together, they cause, first of all, unplannability of the production, of the construction, huge CO2 impact, because you're using material, you're wasting material, you're building, you're tearing down, and at the end of the day, also time aspects, money aspects. So the way is, again, industrialization, to build things either digitally or in controlled environments. So there are two main trends to this. One is on-site construction, which is with 3D printing and robotics on the construction site. So you basically have your digital plan and you fabricate it digitally, which is very successful, but still very expensive, and it is not accessible to SMBs, to smaller and medium-sized businesses. But the other way, which is actually not new, it's offsite construction. It is modular construction, and basically creating the elements of your building in a controlled environment in a factory and delivering it to the site. And this way you basically can still either use 3D printing for those elements in a factory, or use even traditional methods, but in a controlled environment on a production line, and bring those to the construction site instead of putting bricks on the construction site. You basically get a wall, which includes all the accessories that you need inside it. All the cables, everything is already pre-mounted, and you can basically assemble it on the site. And this part is called prefab, so prefabrication or offsite construction. And you have different levels of it. You have element, so 2D prefabrication. You have volumetric elements, which are, for instance, a whole bathroom pot you can deliver to your construction. So that's basically the whole concept behind prefabrication.
In your opinion, how can we overcome barriers to prefabrication? Because you mentioned that it's somehow inside or offsite, sometimes not super accessible, especially to SMBs, especially, for example, in countries that are facing like problems, for example, Iran at this point. So how can they overcome this problem? They want to have, like, from one side, they want to have like a really clean project, really clean execution, but at the same time, it's expensive. So how can they do that? What is the solution here?
So one of the main challenges that I see is actually not in accessing the prefab elements. It is in planning with prefab elements, because normally as an architect, you start by bringing your creativity to your CAD environment or on paper, then afterwards to the CAD environment, and basically putting 3D geometries, creating 3D geometries. Or you can start with 2D geometry, then extrude it. But generally, you're working with geometries. You're not working with Lego pieces. And I know a lot of architects, and I don't know any architect who likes to do that, who likes to basically limit themselves to a product catalog, if you will. There were also different projects who tried to do that, but they failed because it's just cumbersome to think in elements instead of thinking in space requirements. For instance, if you want to design this room, you can't start by using, okay, I have a wall which is 3 meters long, then I build a room around that. No, you go with the space. You go with the use case of that room. You go with the requirements that you have, design requirements or usability requirements of that room, and then start designing it. And what we see is basically the architects design something, And finding a manufacturer who can deliver the parts for that freehand design is not something that you can put in a fabrication pipeline. So that's where the main problem happens, that prefabrication is not yet the standard way in the construction industry. Even in modern countries like Germany, you have only 6% of prefabrication in the whole construction industry. In Nordics, I think it's a little bit more. I think around 15% or something in that area. But the main challenge is to be able to build something which is also relevant to the design. So to have the design intent, but at the same time to be able to replicate and be able to create a production line. And that's something that we try to solve. I will tell you a little bit more about it later. But generally, what we think is the way to go is to be able to design fabrication aware, but without paralyzing the creativity of an architect. Because if you want to think about, is it now prefab compatible, what I'm designing? Is this part prefab compatible? For a large project, this becomes a nightmare, and you can't think straight. You can't let your creativity juice flow. And what we try to basically do is to even make that automatic, if that makes sense. And for countries like Iran, so there are different aspects to it. There are, of course, geopolitical and generally political aspects to it. If you can work with a company, with a country, or not. There is the sustainability constraint to it. If it makes sense to send a bathroom pot from Italy to Tehran, for instance, does that make sense from transportation point of view and transportation CO2 emissions that you're causing, or does it make more sense to have a production line directly near Tehran which can deliver that? And even there, we are also discussing with some projects in Saudi Arabia, because they are facing huge problems with their hospitality scene for certain parts. They want to build a huge amount of hotels and hospitality centers, and they want to basically bring everything in prefab. So bring the whole prefab manufacturing lines to the site. So it's basically a hybrid. It is bringing everything on site, but not on the construction site, but near the construction site. Have the controlled environment, build it offsite on these new factory plants, and deliver it to the different construction sites.
You're leading Mont, a company that focuses on prefabrication and offsite construction. So what is your mission, and how can you help the AEC industry?
So our mission is that every architect can assess which parts of their building can be built prefab, and to give them the best suitable supplier for their project. And there we are basically having three different parameters or three different decision criteria. One is price, one is delivery time, one is CO2 footprint. And what we do is basically we scan their BIM model. We see which parts, in our opinion, can be prefabricated. We have the production capacity and utilization of fabrication suppliers and their location. Again, my GIS background kicks in to find the most suitable supplier for them. And we basically suggest them these parts you can make prefab. We run a validation model on top of it, and everything is, by the way, automated using machine learning. We run a validation and see, for instance, if this room is not suitable for prefabrication, we can even suggest them move this wall 5 centimeters to the left, and then you have perfect distribution of these elements. And at the end of the process, they can basically augment their BIM model with the 3D objects of these elements. So basically, the architect doesn't have to bring the Lego pieces and put them together. They can design freely, and our machine learning model brings the Lego pieces to their model and basically adjusts their model to the Lego pieces. And the way I think we are helping the industry is to give the architects the possibility to, first of all, to stay creative, and secondly, to build with prefab, to design with prefab, to design fabrication aware.
And did you receive any feedback? Of course you received, but how successful were you so far? And have you faced any problems, for example, within the projects? And how did you solve it, for example?
So we just started in January this year. So we're still working on our product. The best feedback that we received was from academia. So Stanford University is willing to basically they joined us, and they're helping us with the algorithm. ETH in Zurich as well. So two of them, the most renowned architecture and engineering universities, understand the problem and the solution that we are offering, and they want to be part of it. And we see also a lot of interest from the industry side. Like I said, we started in January. Now it's September. Within 9 months, we already have 3,800 suppliers worldwide who are qualified. Our main focus at this moment is Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. So mainland Europe is the territory that we have most of our suppliers, but we also have some in the USA. We have some in Asia, and yeah. So the challenges that we see are adoption of such a technology, and our solution to those challenges are to making it open source. Because we at Mott believe in collaboration rather than creating a new silo. And I think our industry has enough silos by itself, so we don't want to add another one. And it doesn't matter if basically we want that what we build also together with the universities and with the industry could be the new standard way of doing things. And I think what we bring to the table is also that the architects can have access to real-time and real-world information about the fabrication without having to worry about.
And what are the biggest transformations you expect to see as more companies are adopting to prefabrication and offsite construction?
So I expect that this 90% projects who are priced, basically who are exceeding their budget and delayed, to become much less. I mean, if you think about it, right now we have 2024. If you think about 2030 or 2050, I don't think that in 2050 anybody would build the brick and mortar way. I think until then you have basically AI and robotics, which dominates the market. And then, of course, there's a job security question that everybody loves. What about my job? I see the roles are basically emerging to different roles, if you will. The architect is not going to be the designer. The architect is going to be the product manager, the product owner. They have still the possibility to bring the creativity. They don't have to spend hours and hours of drafting. They can basically bring their creativity into the table and let generative design, for instance, create their designs. And then they can still give their feedback and change it and do whatever they have to do. But I think in 2050, we are much, much further than just fighting about is prefab good for my project or not. We will be in a place that you can design and machine can build, and basically, or you and machine can design and machine can build. And it is, in my opinion, more efficient, and it is also more CO2 neutral.
I'm still thinking if the future of if the future is scary or not, because I know that AI is in the game for sure, and also the technology is just growing faster than ever. So in your opinion, how the future looks, how the future looks like, and I know that that the definition of jobs are just changing, so the roles are changing, but should we worried? Should we be worried about it or not?
To be honest with you, I don't think that the knowledge workers should be worried about it. Your job transforms as new technologies come along. When I started with the GIS industry, I had to work on two monitors. One was a VGA monitor with color. The other one was my terminal, a monochrome monitor. And basically, I had to program something here, see the results there, and now you can do it on an iPad. So the tooling changes. To be honest with you, back then, and I'm talking about 1996, even then we had AI of sorts. You could basically get a satellite image and you could run a classification on it, supervised or unsupervised, and find features, find basically plots of land with agriculture, with trees. So you either had to draw it by hand, which many people did, or you are a little bit smarter and you used classification, so basically used AI, and then you had more time to do more stuff. do more creative stuff. I mean, what I'm trying to tell is we are building upon our knowledge. There was times where your knowledge was limited to yourself, maybe people around you who you could basically train them, but we are creating a cumulative knowledge for the human kind. So if we're building an AI, a generative AI, for instance, now ChatGPT is known to everybody. ChatGPT has now the knowledge of many different traits inside it. It can hallucinate somehow, sometimes, but still you can prompt it in a way that it stays fact based and gives you also the references to the information that it gathers. And if you think about it again, back to the digital transformation, if we didn't have the whole knowledge in digital format, if we didn't have Google, Wikipedia, without these, if we didn't have all our books in digital format, you couldn't train an AI which has all the knowledge. So to answer your question, no, I don't think that we all get obsolete. The things that we have to do are not different. You don't have to think about how should I formulate my letter to the tax authorities. You basically think about more productive stuff. The standard stuff can be done by AI, but where human brain shines is thinking about the unthinkables, thinking about going to new paradigms, going to making impossibles possible, and staying creative. And pragmatism. That's something that you don't see in an AI and computerized world, which is one of the main advantages of human beings. If you have a problem and you can't solve it right now, you can't find a workaround for it for the time being until you have a solution. But in digital world, it is either I have a solution or I don't have a solution. So I think there I see more of human interaction also in the future.
Very, very great answer. Yeah. I mean, so far I'm extremely happy with where are we in terms of technology, also the AI. Of course, I'm not using like all the aspects of AI, just ChatGPT, but the amount of job or the amount of work that I can do per week is way higher than before. I think we're adapting to it, and of course, everything comes with a lot of advantages and disadvantages. I know that you're also mentor and coach, and actually you're a really good mentor based on all the explanations that you're giving me. So how do you help leaders within the AEC industry to adopt digital transformations?
One main challenge that we see in construction industry is this being afraid of change. And I think the main thing is it's a running train. You're either on it or you're staying behind. So you may as well just jump in. You might get a couple of bruises here and there, but it's better to be on the train and better to be prepared for the future. What I normally do, I'm mainly focused on startups these days. And what I'm normally doing is basically helping them with their leadership style, with their inclusion of digital workflows and digital tools in their systems with automating. We also created a school for coding and automation for the AEC industry, which basically helps them to understand why do we automate, what can be automated, and how can it be automated, and where does it make sense to spend time in creating small tools, either in-house or for the community, to automate stuff. That's one aspect of it. On the other side, I'm also country lead for open source construction in Germany, and there we're basically helping the industry to adopt the open source mentality to like what we do with Mod, not to create new silos. If you look online or if you look on LinkedIn, yesterday I saw the 50-second bin view IFC viewer that somebody created. How many IFC viewers do we need? I mean, let's create one single good IFC viewer open source and let everybody work with it. And if somebody has different requirements, they can build on top of it and share it again with the community, so that everybody else can work on something else. The main problem of the industry is we are doing a lot of repetitive tasks instead of sharing with each other. So if I build a product, I'm more than happy that more people use it and it solves the same problem from more companies, rather than sitting on it and trying to gain some sense out of it. So that's also one of the parts that I'm working on in my coaching environment. And the most important part, which is also near to my heart, is the people part. So there are a lot of management styles. I don't call it leadership knowingly. There are a lot of management stuff going on, especially in our industry, which is profit first and the product second, which in our case is a construction project, and people come at the very end. And that should be exactly the other way around. You need good people to build a good product, and if you do that, you're profitable. And that's this paradigm shift has already happened in many very successful companies and the tech industry, but in the construction industry, I'm still not seeing it the way it should be.
We all know that there is a huge resistance to change in this industry. You also mentioned that. Do you think the main reason behind it is the mindset that you also mentioned? So profit first, then product, then people. Is it connected to that?
I think it is, and I think not only the resistance to change as part of the result, also the 38% of global CO2 emission that we are causing as part of it. You don't see too many real estate developers who ask you about the CO2 emission of their project, unless they are forced to by an ESG metric that they have to deliver. The main thing is, how much will it cost? And the thing is, how much will it cost me or my investors? They don't ask how much will it cost our globe. And that's, again, something that you have to see it in the big picture. It is basically the main thing to think about. What is my global impact? Who are my people? what is my product? And then, of course, every business has to be profitable. But again, the profit margin is also sometimes questionable. Is it the optimized profit margin for you and your people and the environment? Or is it just the best profit margin monetary for you and your investors? That's also something that you have to, I mean, we don't have now the luxury to not to think about it. We see with global warming, we see with inflation, we see with burnouts and people. So it is there, it is real, and you have to do something about it.
Where do you see the construction industry in the next 10 years?
Good question. Next 10 years, 2034. I want to see, I want to see that we are not causing 38% CO2 footprint. I want to see that we are building more industrialized, and I think it is going to be prefab rather than robotics at this stage within 10 years. Within 20, 25 years, I definitely see 3D printing and robotics, but the next 10 years, I would say it is still, when you think about it internationally, it is still prefabrication. And I hope that we play a huge role in it.
For sure. We talked about a lot of things. So digitalization, prefabrication, inside offsite construction. We got your suggestion. Now I want to know a little bit about your future. So where do you want to go in the next 10 years?
I'd like to basically that in 10 years, I can tell you what we've done for the construction industry and for the CO2 emission of the world. And I would love to basically see MOD to be successful and see the construction industry to be adopting industrialization and open source mentality. If that happens, I can go back to my hobbies, like music and writing, and enjoy the world.
Yashar, I really enjoyed talking to you and listening to you. I hope our audience also enjoyed that. I really want to know if you have any sort of message that you want to give or you want to share with our audience.
Thank you. It was also very, very pleasant to talk with you, Hamid. I really enjoyed our talk. I think the one takeaway message that I can give people is, first of all, digitalization is a prerequisite to everything else. What's coming afterwards. Second, let's embrace industrialization in construction. And most important, let's not forget that we have only one Earth.
Love that message. Yeah, love that. Thank you so much again, Yashar, for accepting my invitation, and thank you so much for being part of it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.